Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. As you may know, in the past few months on social media and on other places online and in just the general media, people have been raising questions about the 5Ks or about the Panch Kakars. And now people want to know if the Panch Kakars were truly created by the Gurus or if they were created during the colonial period, perhaps by the British or by the Singh Sabha reform movement. And many of the people raising these objections are doing it in good faith and are doing it out of genuine curiosity, while others are exploiting this to um, extend and to sort of promote their own nefarious agendas. So today we're going to be taking a look at the different pre-colonial sources that prove that the Kesh or the Kes, the Kanga, the Kacchera, the Kirpan, and the Kakar can all be linked back to the Sikh gurus. So the first thing that we're going to look at is what exactly do we mean when we say 5Ks? So if we were to look at the statement, the 5Ks as a whole and really decode what that means, well then if we apply that to history, we can see that even the statement, the Panch Kakars, this is something new. This is something that came about during the colonial period when the British had taken over India and Punjab. However, it is inaccurate to say that the Panch Kakars as a whole individually cannot be traced back to the Gurus. Rather, they were not all seen as equals or as quintuplets the way that they are now. So if we look here in one of the Sikh Granths known as the Sarbal Granth, the Sarbal Granth, the oldest manuscripts of this Granth come from the 18th century, and scholars like Baigan Singh Nabha have said that it contains a mix of the writings of different Sikhs at that time and Guru Gobind Singh. Others like the Jathedar of the Buddha Dal or the Nihang faction of Sikhs, Baba Santa Singh, have said that some of the shabads within the Sarbal Granth do have were not written by the Guru. However, this doesn't mean that the Panch Kakars cannot be traced back to the Guru, as we will soon see, because this text, this polemic Granth, it even has like certain rules, like the Rehetname or the Rehet Maryada that the modern Sikh month has. These rules, even if they were written by someone else, still prove the validity of the Panch Kakars coming back to the times of the Gurus and not from the colonial period, because it shows that even in the 18th century, in the 1700s, Sikhs were writing and they were talking about these Kakars. And there are different versions of the Sarbal Granth. However, all of them contain the line that I'm about to read to you right now, which states, Kash Kes Kirpanan Mudrit Gur Bhagta Ram Das Pae. So here the word Kash means Kacchera, the word Kes means Kes or uncut hair, and the word Kirpanan refers to the Kirpan that all initiated Sikhs must don. And so here we can see a clear evidence of the Kacchera, the Kes, and the Kirpan all from the contemporary Sikhs of the Gurus. So now we're going to look at the Kanga and the Kakar and how they relate to the Sikh tradition. Here we can just read a basic translation of the line. It just says, Kash is Kirpanan Mudrit Gur Bhagtaram Spay, with Kash referring to the Kacchera, Kes and Kirpan as their insignia. They became great devotees of the Guru. And this is, of course, referring to the Khalsa Panth. And here it says Guru Gobind Singh on the Khalsa. This is from Sarbal. So now we're going to look at the Kanga and where it is mentioned. So I got this from a website which is known as Sikhi to the Max. And Sikhi to the Max is an amazing website if you want to look at English or Hindi or other translations of Guru Granth Sahib Ji, Shri Dasam Granth, Bhai Gurdas Ji Wara, Bhai Gurdas Singh Wara, Bhai Nandalal Ji Wara, and other such things. So here, if you're unaware, our Hetanama refers to a code of conduct for the Sikhs. And so here we can see the various Hetaname by contemporaries of the Guru, which are telling the Sikhs to always keep a Kang and a Gurd tied into your turban. So the Kanga here we can see it's being referenced by somebody known as Bhai Nandalal. And Bhai Nandalal was somebody who was well versed in Persian, and he was one of the most beautiful people to have been serving Guru Gobind Singh Ji during the time of his life. And he was just absolutely a beautiful person. You can read much of the Persian poetry that he wrote, a lot of the Persian poetry like Ganjanama. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece. It has many hymns like Nasro Mansur Guru Gobind Singh, Shahi Shahenshah Guru Gobind Singh. Beautiful, beautiful poetry praising the 10th king. So now we're going to look at the Qara. Now here for the Qara, we can see that Bhai Daya Singh, who was one of the Panj Pyare, he was actually the first Panj Pyara that Guru Gobind Singh Ji made a Khalsa. Here we can see that he is telling the Sikhs to wear a mala or a rosary, Qara, a chakram, which refers to a quoit, a knife, and daggers of all iron. So some of you may be wondering that most Sikhs these days don't see it as a religious obligation to wear a mala or a chakram, so on and so forth. And this is because typically Rehatname, which are written by the contemporaries of the Guru and by old Sikhs before the colonial period, these Rehatnamas do not need to be followed to a T. However, if you notice clear patterns within the Rehatname, this is how, for example, the current Sikh Maryada was composed. It was composed by looking at the various Panthic texts of that time, and that's how the Panj Kakars came into the mainstream as something which all initiated Sikhs have to do. So there is, of course, a little bit of nuance within this. However, it is quite obvious that contemporaries of the Guru did adorn the Qara as well as the Kanga, the Kesh, the uncut hair, the Kacchera, as well as the Kirpan. So now now that we've shown evidence for all of these, we're just going to look at some photos. So here we can see the Qara of Baba Deep Singh. He was a contemporary of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Contemporary simply means he lived in the same time of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. So we can look at this image here. Oh, yes. So here we have the Qara Baba Deep Singh Ji. It's quite large, as you can see. And these are some other beautiful artifacts. For example, this is the Kalgi that Guru Gobind Singh Ji used to adorn. You can also see some of the small weapons and the Kanga of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And so we can look at all these. We can look at handwritten Mool Mantar by Guru Gobind Singh Ji. These are all just, beautiful things. And here we can even very interestingly see a gun. And yes, guns did exist during the time of the Gurus, and this is Guru Gobind Singh Ji's gun. And here we can see the handwriting of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. However, this obviously doesn't have anything to do with the Panch Kakars. And here, just for the last thing, I just want to show you this image of the same Kanga that was in the previous image. This is Guru Gobind Singh Ji's Kanga, and what's on the right is apparently his Kesh, which is very interesting to say the least. But with that, I hope that some of your doubts may have been cleared about the subject for those who wanted to learn about the subject in good faith. And if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.